Hello everyone. Today our journey takes us to the golden sands of ancient Egypt, a civilization of imposing pharaohs, colossal temples, and rituals that shaped history. But beyond the pyramids and gold, there existed an untold side, an Egypt that knew how to party, experiment, and seek unusual ways to connect with the divine, and incidentally, get high in ways you'd never imagine. Behind the seriousness of rituals, there were banquets enhanced by wine mixed with flowers, festivals where thousands drank until trance, and temples filled with incenses that provoked visions. For the Egyptians, pleasure and spirituality walked together. And what's most curious is how familiar all this sounds to our modern desires to escape routine. So, before settling in, already hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, the best history channel on YouTube. If you enjoy diving into these hidden secrets of antiquity, you'll love what's coming. Now, dim the lights, prepare for a journey through time, and let's discover together how ancient Egyptians found surprising ways to transform the ordinary into something sacred. You wake up with the relentless heat of the Egyptian sun penetrating through the narrow windows of your mud brick house. There's no cell phone alarm, because, surprise, cell phones don't exist. What really wakes you is the neighbor's rooster, which seems to have taken an intensive course in how to be as annoying as possible before dawn. Rubbing your eyes, you realize your head is throbbing. Of course it's throbbing. Yesterday was the festival of Hathor, and you, like any self-respecting Egyptian, drank beer until you passed out in public. In 2500 BC, this isn't a source of shame, but of spiritual pride. Your bed isn't exactly the mattress with NASA technology you dream about in TV commercials. It's more like a raised wooden platform with an improvised mattress of straw and linen. Sleeping in ancient Egypt is basically camping every day of your life, just without toasted marshmallows and with way more scorpions. Getting up with difficulty, you notice your hangover isn't like modern hangovers. This one has a sacred quality, a torpor that, according to priests, brings you closer to the gods. Hathor is within you, they say. Translation: you have a divine hangover, blessed and completely dehydrated. The floor under your feet is packed earth, perhaps covered with reed mats if you're middle class or above. Your wealthier neighbors have the luxury of limestone flooring, the Egyptian equivalent of having heated floors nowadays. You silently envy while your bare feet touch the cold earth. Around you, your house is simple but functional, thick mud brick walls to keep heat outside, high ceiling for air circulation, and small windows to prevent the sun from turning your home into an oven. It's air conditioning version 3000 BC, incredibly inefficient. But hey, you don't pay electricity bills. Your first tasks of the day await you. There's no coffee to help you wake up, another cultural shock for your modern brain. Instead, you have a jar of Nile water filtered through cloth. Yes, still with enough microbes to take down a hippo, and maybe a piece of stale bread from the night before. The sounds of the city already invade your house. Vendors announcing their products. Animals being taken to work in the fields, children running through narrow streets. There's no car traffic, but the congestion of people, donkeys, and occasionally oxen isn't much different from the subway at rush hour. You take a deep breath and prepare to face another day. Life in ancient Egypt doesn't wait for anyone, not even you with your sacred hangover. The gods are watching, the pharaoh is ruling, and the Nile keeps flowing, indifferent to your morning problems. It's time to clean up for the day. And you don't. Have a bathroom with running water, illuminated mirror, and a shelf full of Dove products. Your bathroom is basically a corner of the house with a ceramic basin, and if you're lucky, a wooden stool. Welcome to the Egyptian spa. The water for your hygiene comes in jugs brought from the Nile by yourself, or if you have some social status, by your servants. Imagine having to carry all the water you use in a day. Now imagine doing this under 40-degree sun. Suddenly, that 30-minute shower seems like an absurd luxury, doesn't it? Egyptian soap doesn't come in packages promising eternal youth. It's a mixture of ashes, animal fat, and clay. It smells more like failed barbecue than French lavender. But it does its job of removing dirt and sweat, especially sweat, since you sweat like a condemned man in this climate. For teeth, forget. Fluoride toothpaste and soft brush with wave-shaped bristles. You use a mixture of salt, crushed mint leaves, and ashes. The effect is something between cleaning and a medieval torture session for your gums. Your breath will be Interesting, let's say. The toothbrush is a stick chewed at the tip until it forms fibers. Seriously, you literally chew a piece of wood until it looks like a tiny duster and then rub it on your teeth. It's eco-friendly, at least. Future millennials would approve this zero-waste method. To complete your morning beauty routine, you apply kohl around your eyes. That black makeup you see in all Egyptian representations. It's not just aesthetic. Kohl helps reduce sun glare and ward off insects. It's sunscreen, repellent, and eyeliner 3-in-1. Efficient. If you're rich, a servant applies perfumed oils to your body, the ancient version of deodorant. The most popular are olive, sesame, or almond oil, infused with myrrh, cinnamon, or flowers. If you're poor, well, you smell like sweat with notes of desert dust. Eau de worker, the fragrance of the people. Egyptian women remove all body hair, using a mixture of honey and sugar, the first version of hot wax. Men also remove hair, especially priests. Body hair is considered impure. In a historical plot twist, in ancient Egypt, the smooth body is a symbol of spiritual cleanliness, not adherence to vogue aesthetic standards. To finish your morning routine, you brush or comb your wig. Yes, wig. Most Egyptians shave their heads to avoid lice and then put on elaborate wigs made of human hair, sheep wool, or plant fibers. It's the ancestral equivalent of getting hair extensions. Ready, you're clean, by 3rd millennium BC standards, perfumed, more or less, and properly made up. Now you can face the day with the dignity of someone who smells slightly better than their neighbors. In ancient Egypt, sometimes that's all you can ask for. Time to feed your body to face a day of work under the scorching sun. There's no coffee, sugary cereals, or avocado toast. The Egyptian breakfast is practical, no nonsense, and for your modern palate, probably depressing like a rainy day at an amusement park. The star of the meal is bread, not that artisanal natural fermentation bread that costs an arm and a leg at gourmet bakeries. It's flat, dense bread made of barley or emmer, a type of ancestral wheat, often with sand from the mill mixed into the flour. Each bite comes with a little extra crunch that isn't sesame seeds, but a miniature Sahara to exercise your teeth. To accompany the sandy bread, you have raw onions, maybe some garlic, and if you're lucky, a handful of dates. Animal protein for breakfast, only if you're elite. In that case, there might be a boiled egg or a piece of salted fish from the Nile. The concept of most important meal of the day clearly hasn't reached Egypt yet. The morning drink isn't a double espresso or cappuccino with heart-shaped foam. Art, it's diluted beer. Yes, you read that right. Beer for breakfast. Before you celebrate this alcoholic freedom, understand that this beer has low alcohol content and porridge-like consistency. It's essentially liquid fermented bread, cloudy and thick like pea soup. Tasty? Debatable. Nutritious? Surprisingly, yes. If you're a child, your version of beer is even more diluted, practically a bread smoothie. Egyptian children don't have chocolate milk, they have proto-beer. Think of it as the first breakfast cereal in history, just liquid, slightly fermented, and without a smiling tiger on the label. The breakfast table doesn't exist. You probably eat sitting on a stool or mat or even standing. There are no utensils besides your hands, the right hand specifically, since the left is reserved for hygienic functions. And napkins? Please, you have the hem of your tunic for that. For the aged, more affluent, breakfast might include fresh fruits like grapes, melon, or figs. Nobles can enjoy honey, an expensive delicacy that plays the role of modern sugar. You, common citizen, will have to wait for a religious festival to taste something so refined. Your daily sweetener is dates, the Egyptian equivalent of brown sugar. The eating ritual is quick and functional. There's no endless Instagram scrolling while you chew distractedly. You eat with purpose, mentally thanking the gods for food, especially Ra, the sun god, and Hapi, the god of the Nile, responsible for harvests. Meal finished. You rinse your mouth with water and clean your teeth with that same chewed stick mentioned earlier. There's no Listerine for fresh breath, just some mint leaves chewed if you have access to them. Your co-worker thanks you, or not. With your stomach reasonably satisfied with sandy bread and beer porridge, you're ready to face your workday. After, all those pyramids won't build themselves, will they? Now it's time to get dressed. And in ancient Egypt, this is surprisingly simple. Forget the existential angst of deciding between dozens of clothes every morning. Your wardrobe fits in a single wooden box, and consists basically of variations of the same model. It's Steve Jobs' dream, realized 5,000 years earlier. The main piece is the shenty for men, or calasiris for women. The shenty is essentially a skirt or loincloth made of linen, tied at the waist. It's the precursor to boxer briefs, just worn as outer clothing. The calasiris is a straight, simple dress that goes from the bust, or sometimes shoulders, to the ankles. No elaborate necklines, frills, or animal print patterns. The material is almost exclusively linen. Cotton? Non-existent in Egypt at this time. Silk? An exotic luxury from distant lands that only the pharaoh can dream of touching. Polyester? Please, petrochemicals are still millennia away. Linen is breathable, absorbs sweat, and when well woven, can be incredibly fine and comfortable in suffocating heat. The predominant color is the natural white of linen. You don't have a Pantone palette at your disposal. Dyeing exists, but it's expensive and reserved for elites. If you're a common worker, your clothes are white or light beige. Not by minimalist aesthetic choice, but by economic necessity. It's normcore before being cool. The feet? Usually barefoot. Sandals made of braided papyrus or leather are a luxury reserved for special occasions or people of higher status. Your feet develop a thick, calloused sole that would be the envy of any modern barefoot running practitioner. There are no plantar fasciitis problems when your feet are practically organic tires. Jewelry is important social markers. If you're poor, maybe you have a ceramic or common stone amulet on a fiber cord. If you're rich, you display elaborate necklaces, bracelets, and rings of gold with semi-precious stones. Gold isn't just decorative, it's considered the flesh of the gods, immutable and eternal, a symbol of divine power. For sun protection, you use a linen scarf on your head, or, if you're rich, a wig. Wigs are made of human hair for the elite, or plant fibers for the less affluent. Some are so elaborate, they look like an architectural helmet. They're the Egyptian equivalent of having a celebrity hairstyle done by a famous stylist. As for underwear, well, it doesn't exactly exist. The concept of lingerie is millennia away. Under the shenty or calasiris, there's mainly skin. In a climate where 35 degrees C is considered a nice day, extra layers are the enemy. No boxer shorts or cotton panties. Total freedom under the linen. Maintaining your clothes involves washing them in the Nile using a mixture of ashes and animal fat, the primitive soap mentioned earlier. You beat the pieces on flat stones by the river, hoping not to be surprised by a curious crocodile. It's an Egyptian version of laundry day, just with 100% more life risk. Ready, you're dressed in your elegant simplicity. No matching shoes with belts. No excessive accessorizing. No worrying if floral prints go with stripes. In ancient Egypt, fashion is functional, minimalist, and ironically more sustainable than any modern eco-friendly collection. Who would have thought your ancestors were pioneers of slow fashion? With your belly partially satisfied and your body minimally covered, you leave for work. Forget home office, hybrid work, or the desk with ergonomic setup. Your occupation in ancient Egypt probably involves muscles, sweat, and a generous dose of resignation to fate. If you're like most Egyptians, you work in agriculture. The Egyptian calendar is divided into 3 seasons determined by the Nile: inundation, Akhet, planting, Pere, and harvest, Shemu. There are no weekends, extended holidays, or collective vacations. There are only the river, the seasons, and the eternal cycles of nature. During planting season, you wake up before the sun and walk to the fields. Your tools are basic: a wooden hoe with a copper tip, maybe a plow pulled by oxen if your community has resources. No tractors, automated irrigation systems, or drones spraying pesticides. Just you, the earth, and techniques passed down through generations. You mainly plant barley and emmer, that ancestral wheat, plus lentils, onions, lettuce, and cucumbers. There's no corn, which will come from the Americas millennia later. No tomatoes, no potatoes. Your basic diet is literally in your hands as you sow fields fertilized by Nile silt. Work is methodically divided. Men generally plow and sow, while women help with harvest and processing. Children scare birds from fields with shouts and stones. It's an interconnected family system where everyone has a role from early on. There's no debate about when to start giving children responsibilities. They participate as soon as they can walk. If you're not a farmer, maybe you're a fisherman on the Nile. using handmade nets or reed traps. Or perhaps you're a craftsman, potter, weaver, carpenter, blacksmith. Workshops are usually extensions of houses, family businesses where knowledge passes from father to son for generations. No online courses or colleges. Learning comes from direct observation and practice. If you're lucky, or unlucky depending on perspective, you might work on royal constructions. The Great Pyramids weren't built by slaves, as many think, but by workers recruited during flood season, when fields are underwater and there's no planting. It's the Egyptian equivalent of a temporary job, just involving dragging multi-ton stone blocks. As a pyramid worker, you receive rations, bread, onions, garlic, and several liters of that beer porridge daily. Beer isn't just for pleasure. It contains natural antibiotics from fermentation, helping prevent diseases. It's medicine, hydration, and corporate benefit in one container. Construction sites have rigid hierarchy. Architects and scribes at the top, then foremen, specialized teams, stonecutters, transporters, layers, and at the base the mass of common workers. Each transported stone block is coordinated work of dozens of men, using ramps, wooden sleds, and brute force. If you're a woman, you might work in fields, weave linen, grind grains, make beer, or manage the house, all functions essential to the economy. Egyptian women have surprising rights for the era. They can own property, initiate divorces, and even represent themselves in courts. It's almost progressive, if you ignore all the rest of the rigidly hierarchical social structure. For the few literate, there's the scribe career, perhaps the most envied. Scribes don't break their backs in fields or constructions. They sit, relatively comfortably, recording inventories, collecting taxes, and writing documents. They're the office workers of antiquity, just with much more prestige and no broken coffee machine in the hallway. The workday lasts from dawn to sunset, with a brief midday break for light meal and rest during the most intense heat. No time clock, but the sun is a relentless boss, and foremen even more so. Over time, the concept doesn't exist. You work until you finish what needs to be done. At day's end, exhausted and covered in dust, you return home. No happy hour with colleagues, gym to de-stress, or Netflix to turn off your brain. There's only family, simple meal, maybe some stories around an oil lamp, and then restorative sleep before everything starts again tomorrow. The sun has reached its highest point in the sky, transforming the air into an invisible furnace. It's time to stop work for the midday meal. Forget delivery through food apps or lunchbox with compartments for carbs and proteins. Your Egyptian lunch is simple, functional, and honestly, quite repetitive. The lunch base? Guess. Bread. Again, ancient Egyptians are as obsessed with bread as modern teenagers with their smartphones. This midday bread, however, might be slightly different from breakfast, perhaps with onion or garlic mashed into the dough, or covered with sesame seeds for the more affluent. To accompany the omnipresent bread, you have some side dish options, as your grandmother would say. Vegetables like onions, garlic, cucumber, and lettuce are common. You might have some olives, maybe a handful of cooked lentils. Animal protein appears as dried fish from the Nile, or rarely a piece of meat, usually poultry like ducks or geese. Your lunch beer is more mature than the morning one, slightly stronger and served at a temperature that can only be described as unpleasantly warm. There's no ice, obviously, and the idea of cold drinks would be as alien to an Egyptian as a smartphone. If you work in fields, you probably carry this meal with you in a small basket or linen bundle. If you're in pyramid or temple construction, you eat in areas designated for collective meals, history's first corporate cafeteria, just without espresso machine or microwave to heat lunchboxes. Eating is a quick, pragmatic act. No long breaks for digestion or prolonged siestas, despite brutal heat suggesting it would be a good idea. Time is precious, especially when measured by sun position and not a digital clock. You have approximately the time for a shadow to shrink a few centimeters before returning to work. Wealthier Egyptians, of course, have a completely different experience. While you chew your hard bread in improvised shade of a palm tree, nobles enjoy banquets with roasted meat, stuffed poultry, imported fruits and bread made with flour sifted multiple times to remove all sand. Social inequality is as old as the pyramids. Lunch ends with seasonal fruits, if available, dates, figs, or melon. No elaborate dessert, coffee to wake up, or digestive to aid the process. Just a final sip of warm beer, resigned sigh, and it's Time to return to work under the relentless sun. Interestingly, Egyptians believe eating too much at midday is harmful to health and productivity. They seem to have invented the concept of food coma millennia before modern science explained why you get sleepy after a big meal. Heavy meals are reserved for evening, when work is concluded. And so, with stomach moderately satisfied, you return to your tasks. The pyramid won't build itself. Fields won't magically harvest themselves. And your supervisor is already looking at sun position, calculating how much more work they can extract from you before twilight. While you work, the political system governing your life operates at full steam. And what a system. Forget democracy, republic, or anything remotely resembling power of the people. In ancient Egypt, politics is literally a theocracy, where your ruler isn't just supported by God, he is a god. At the top of everything is the pharaoh, son of Ra on earth, living incarnation of Horus, mediator between humans and gods. He's not just a political leader, he's a divinity walking among mortals. Imagine if your president not only claimed to be chosen by God, but asserted to be God, and everyone believed it. That's this level of authority. The royal palace is a complex administrative machine. Just below the pharaoh is the vizier, essentially a prime minister with impressive executive powers. Think of him as CEO, while the pharaoh is owner of the divine company called Egypt. The vizier oversees everything, from construction projects to justice courts. Egyptian bureaucracy is surprisingly efficient for an ancient civilization. There are specialized departments for agriculture, treasury, public works, and religion, each with its own set of officials and scribes. Papyrus, ink, and meticulous accounts are the tools that keep the empire running. Antiquities Excel and PowerPoint. The nomes, provinces, are administered by nomarchs, a kind of local governor with considerable powers in their regions. They collect taxes, maintain order, and implement irrigation projects. They're appointed by the pharaoh, usually from local noble families. No elections, televised debates, or campaign promises, just divine appointments. Taxes? Oh yes, they've existed for a long time. You pay approximately 20% of your production to the state. Not in money, which barely exists as concept, but in grains, textiles, livestock, or labor. A scribe appears periodically to assess your lands and goods, meticulously noting on papyri what you owe the pharaoh. Tax evasion is severely punished. The modern IRS would be proud. Law is surprisingly developed, with formal courts presided by appointed judges. The principles of Ma'at, truth, balance, and justice, theoretically guide the legal system, though in practice, justice tends to favor the powerful. No professional lawyers. You represent yourself or ask a scribe to speak for you. Think Law and Order, Ancient Kingdom Crimes Unit, just without elegant suits and dramatic plot twists. Punishments range from fines and flogging to forced labor in Nubian gold mines, practically a death sentence due to brutal conditions. For really serious crimes, like treason or royal tomb robbery, there's execution or exile. Your guarantee of fair process depends heavily on who you know and how much you can pay in bribes. Some things never change, apparently. Women have surprising legal rights for the era. They can own property, initiate divorces, and operate businesses. A queen can occasionally rule as pharaoh, though usually with some kind of male co-regency. This doesn't mean gender equality. Men still dominate politics and priesthood, but compared to other ancient societies, Egypt is almost progressive. Foreign policy is dominated by diplomacy, gift exchanges, dynastic marriages, and occasional warfare. Egypt maintains a small standing army, expanding it when necessary through conscription. You might be called for temporary military service if the pharaoh decides it's time to teach a lesson to Hittites or Nubians. Revolts are rare. The combination of religious authority, military force, and dependence on Nile flood cycles creates impressive stability. When dynastic changes occur, they're usually results of palace intrigue or external invasions, not popular revolutions. There's no Egyptian spring. The system is designed to literally last forever. You, as common person, interact with this political structure mainly through tax collectors and occasional forced labor on public projects. Your opinion on state affairs is irrelevant and never requested. Democracy? Please. The concept that common people should have voice in government would be as strange to an ancient Egyptian as the idea of letting cats decide dinner menu. Speaking of cats, they're practically the only beings in Egypt who seem to live above human and divine laws. Sacred to goddess Bastet, domestic felines enjoy almost diplomatic status. Killing a cat, even accidentally, can result in severe punishment. Clearly, the internet only rediscovered what Egyptians knew millennia ago. Cats are our true rulers. As you continue your day, religion permeates every aspect of your existence. In ancient Egypt, there's no separation between church and state, between sacred and mundane, between theology and science. Everything is interwoven in a cosmic tapestry where gods are as present as the air you breathe. The Egyptian pantheon is vast and confusing, even for the Egyptians themselves. There are great national gods like Ra, sun, Osiris, afterlife, Isis, magic and protection, Horus, heavens, and Set, chaos and storms. Then there are local deities, minor gods, ancestral spirits, and even sacred animals. It's like each city had its own divine football team, with mascots and rivalries included. Each god has their specialty, like apps on your divine phone. Fertility problems. Turn to Taweret, the pregnant hippopotamus goddess. Scorpion in the bathroom. A quick prayer to Serket. Toothache. Imhotep can help with that. It's essentially a spiritual tech support system for every aspect of life. Temples are centers of this divine infrastructure. They're not places for Sunday congregations. They're literally the houses of gods on earth. The statue inside the sanctuary doesn't represent the god. It is the god, inhabited by divine essence after specific rituals. Think of it as spiritual download portal, where divinity connects to physical world. As common person, you rarely enter inner parts of temples. These spaces are reserved for priests who perform daily rituals, waking the god, bathing them, dressing them, feeding them, and entertaining them. It's basically celestial spa service executed with meticulous precision. A mistake in ritual could mean disaster for entire community. Your religious participation happens mainly at public festivals, when god statues come out in procession, carried on sacred boats. These events are simultaneously solemn and festive. Imagine a mix of religious procession, carnival, and corporate happy hour. You pray, dance, drink that ritual beer, and if lucky, might even receive an oracle or direct blessing. Speaking of alcoholic blessings, the Feast of Drunkenness, honoring goddess Hathor, is one of the year's most anticipated events. For days, people from all social classes drink until they drop, literally. This collective intoxication isn't seen as shameful or sinful, but as genuine religious experience. Its ancient equivalent of spiritual retreat, just with much more vomiting and questionable decisions. Beer used in these festivals isn't just any beer. It's often enhanced with herbs, spices, and blue lotus, creating drink that does more than just intoxicate. It alters consciousness. Blue lotus contains mild psychoactive compounds that induce states of euphoria and relaxation. It's like your drink had small spiritual upgrade built in. At home, your religious practice centers on family altars dedicated to ancestors and household gods. You make small daily offerings, piece of bread, some flowers, maybe drop of beer. Protection amulets, eyes of Horus, scarabs, Isis knots, adorn your body and house, like supernatural security system against evil forces. Magic is indistinguishable from religion or medicine. You use spells to cure diseases, ward off nightmares, and ensure fertility. Words are believed to have literal power, especially when written. Spell written and then dissolved in water to be drunk transfers its power directly into the body. It's like taking screenshot of blessing and then ingesting it. Your vision of afterlife is elaborate and comforting. If you follow principles of Ma'at, truth, justice, harmony, your heart will be lighter than feather of truth in final judgment, and you'll live eternally in fields of reeds. Idealized version of Egypt with fewer taxes and more beer. It's perfect agrarian paradise. Of course, getting there requires preparation. Ideally, you need to be mummified, have your organs stored in canopic jars, and be buried with goods for afterlife. As common person, you probably can't afford all this, so you improvise. Simple natron treatment, some bandages, cheap amulet, and quick prayer. It's budget version of immortality package. To ensure eternal survival, you also need your name and image preserved. That's why there are so many statues and inscriptions in Egypt. It's not vanity, it's supernatural life insurance. As long as your name is remembered and your image exists, you continue existing in beyond, its ancestral equivalent of backing up all your personal data to cloud. And so, surrounded by gods, magic, and promises of eternity, you navigate your day. Your religion isn't just something for Sundays or holidays. It's complete operating system of your reality, determining everything from major political decisions to what you eat for breakfast. In ancient Egypt, even hangover can be deeply spiritual experience. After long workday, sun finally begins its descent to realm of Nut, sky goddess. It's time for evening festivities, and in ancient Egypt, this often means experiences that go far beyond simple happy hour. Egyptians don't make clear distinction between recreation, medicine, and spirituality when it comes to altering consciousness. For them, changing mental state is a way to connect with divine, relieve pain, and celebrate life, all at the same time. It's like your doctor, bartender, and spiritual guru were same person, prescribing same remedy. Blue lotus, Nymphea cerulea, is perhaps most emblematic of Egyptian consciousness-altering substances. This beautiful aquatic flower isn't just symbol of rebirth and creation. It contains apomorphine and other substances that provoke mild, dreamy relaxation. In banquet paintings, you often see people holding these flowers near nose, inhaling their aroma. For more intense experience, lotus petals and buds are macerated and added to wine. Result is drink that induces euphoric relaxation, with mild visual effects and floating sensation. Its antiquity Xanax meets Prosecco, just with touch of spirituality and no modern chemical hangover. On this specific night, you participate in local banquet where lotus wine is served generously. As you drink, world seems to gain softer quality. Torches appear to have bright halos, and conversations flow with uncommon ease. It's not uncontrolled intoxication, it's more gentle slide into altered state, where daily worries seem distant and insignificant. For those with status or special connections, there's mandrake, strangely humanoid-looking root that occupies special place in Egyptian psychoactive arsenal. In small doses, it works as sedative and aphrodisiac. In larger doses, it provokes vivid hallucinations. Its rarity and danger make it choice reserved for priests, magicians, and elites. Mythology around mandrake is as potent as its effects. It's believed to scream when pulled from earth, killing anyone who hears its supernatural lament. To harvest safely, you supposedly must tie it to dog and let animal pull it while you cover your ears. It's unnecessarily dramatic procedure for something that could simply be dug up, but Egyptians love wrapping their drugs in mystical narratives. Opium, imported from distant lands, is another substance appreciated for both medicinal and recreational properties. Mixed with wine or honey, it relieves pain, induces vivid dreams, and creates sense of profound well-being. It's reserved mainly for important rituals, healing ceremonies, and curiously, as equipment for afterlife journey. Many mummies are found with poppy traces alongside amulets and jewelry. Especially intense experience happens in temples, where priests burn Kai-Fi incense, complex mixture of myrrh, wine, honey, cinnamon, and other secret ingredients. In closed spaces, dense smoke creates environment where intoxication by inhalation is inevitable. Participants report divine visions, levitation sensations, and direct communication with gods. For you, as common person, maybe pure Kai-Fi is inaccessible, but diluted versions are used in public festivals. Perfumed smoke fills air, while dancers move to rhythm of sistrums and drums. Under this aromatic mist, line between physical and spiritual world seems to dissolve, and for few hours, you feel truly part of divine cosmos. Cannabis also makes appearances in Egyptian repertoire, mainly in medicinal form. Cannabis-infused ointments relieve inflammation and joint pain. In some ceremonies, it's burned along with other incenses, adding its psychoactive properties to collective experience. It's like having medicinal and recreational dispensary operating under same temple roof. During tonight's banquet, musicians play harps, flutes, and drums, while dancers move with hypnotic grace. Egyptian melodies sound strange to modern ears, scales that seem eternally unfinished, rhythms that accelerate and decelerate organically. Under lotus wine influence, music seems to penetrate your physical body, vibrating at frequencies you normally wouldn't perceive. As night advances, effects of various substances deepen. It's not unconscious stupor or uncontrolled intoxication. It's deliberate alteration of perception, considered sacred and beneficial. Egyptians see these states as moments of special clarity, not escapism. It's when layers between worlds become thin enough for mortals and gods to almost touch. To end night, final libation is offered to gods. Some lotus wine is poured on earth, while prayers are murmured. Even in moments of apparent indulgence, sacred is always present. Tomorrow you'll wake with that divine hangover mentioned earlier, but you'll carry memory of having, for few hours, experienced world as gods see it, luminous, fluid, and full of hidden meanings. After festivities, you return home at twilight. Finally, it's time for main meal of day. Egyptian dinner is when family gathers, and food is more abundant than previous meals. No delivery, food apps, or microwaves. Just fresh ingredients prepared with techniques passed down through generations. Family gathers seated on mats or low stools around central area. There's no formal dining table, silver cutlery, or placemats. Food is placed in ceramic or wooden containers, and everyone eats with hands. Right hand, remember. It's communal dining style, where everyone shares from same dishes. Again, bread is main actor of this gastronomic theater, but now with more interesting supporting characters. There's lentil stew with onion and garlic, maybe enriched with some garden greens. Fish from Nile, grilled over coals or sun-dried, is common protein. For families with more resources, there might be poultry like ducks, geese, or pigeons. Red meat is rarity reserved for festivals and special occasions. Bulls and cows are too valuable as work animals to be slaughtered regularly. When meat appears on table, it's event. Similar to when your modern family orders that special premium pizza at month's end. Vegetables include cucumbers, lettuce, onions, lots of onions, garlic, radishes, and leeks. Chickpeas, lentils, and peas provide additional vegetable proteins. Everything is seasoned with cumin, coriander, dill, and salt. No tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, or any other food from Americas. Those ingredients are millennia away in future. For dessert, there are seasonal fruits, dates, figs, melon, grapes. Honey is main sweetener, but it's expensive and used moderately. No chocolate, refined sugar, or ice cream. Your favorite dessert would probably be dates soaked in honey with crushed nuts. Antiquity's triple fudge chocolate brownie. Main drink is, yes, more beer, but maybe a bit more refined than morning version. For special occasions, there's wine, made from grapes or dates. This wine doesn't go through aging process in French oak barrels. It's fermented in ceramic jars and consumed relatively young. Modern sommeliers would probably describe it as rustic, with pronounced clay notes and challenging acidity. During meal, conversation flows. You talk about day's work, discuss latest village gossip, who's courting whom, which priest was caught, in compromising situation, and occasionally comment on broader issues like next Nile flood or Pharaoh's new taxes. It's surprisingly similar to modern family dinner, just without anyone checking Instagram during meal. Children participate in conversation, learning social norms and absorbing practical knowledge about agriculture, religion, and crafts. No separate kids' table. Everyone eats together, from newly weaned baby to toothless grandfather. Education is integrated into family life, not delegated to separate institutions. After meal, there's no dishwasher or Dawn detergent with degreasing power. Ceramic utensils are cleaned with fine sand and water, surprisingly effective method. Leftovers, if any, are stored in covered pots or saved to feed domestic animals. Waste is alien concept in society where scarcity is always lurking. With stomach satisfied and workday concluded, it's time to relax bit before sleep. No Netflix, no endless TikTok scrolling, no video games. Entertainment comes in form of orally told stories, music played on simple instruments like harps and flutes, or board games like Senet, kind of ancestral backgammon, and Mihen, serpent, game. As night advances, oil lamps and tallow candles offer minimal illumination. Artificial light is expensive and limited. You learn to synchronize your life with solar cycle. When it gets completely dark, it's usually time to sleep. No series marathons until 3 a.m. or nighttime internet browsing. Your circadian rhythm thanks this forced simplicity. And so, with belly full of bread, onions, and beer, you prepare for rest. Tomorrow will be another day much like this. Repetition of eternal cycle that defines life in Nile Valley. Lying in your simple bed, you contemplate Egypt's climate, not as small talk topic, but as omnipresent force that shapes every aspect of your existence. In ancient Egypt, climate isn't just something that determines whether you'll wear sandals or go barefoot today. It's maestro conducting entire symphony of civilization. Egyptian year is divided into 3 seasons, all defined by relationship with Nile: Akhet, inundation; Pare, growth; and Shemu, harvest. No spring, summer, fall, and winter, just river. Its behavior and human activities it allows or prohibits. Akhet is when Nile overflows its banks, usually July to October. Far from being disaster, this annual flood is blessing that makes life in desert possible. Waters cover fields with layer of nutrient-rich black silt, perfect organic fertilizer delivered free by nature. During this period, you can't work in fields, so construction projects, crafts, and religious festivals dominate agenda. Pare, November to February, is when waters recede, leaving behind moist, extremely fertile soil. It's planting time, when you sow barley and emmer in dark, humid fields. Climate during Pare is almost pleasant by Egyptian standards, moderately warm days and cool nights. It's like that perfect spring week before air conditioning becomes necessary, just lasting months. Shemu, March to June, is harvest season and, progressively, suffocating heat. You work frantically to harvest everything before soil completely dries. As Shemu advances, heat intensifies, vegetation withers, and landscape transforms. Green fields become cracked, dried terrain. Air gets so dry your skin feels like paper and throat is permanently irritated. Temperature during Shemu can easily exceed 40 degrees in shade, if you can find shade. Heat is so intense, mirages dance on horizon, and working at midday is practically unthinkable. That's why you adopt siesta during this period, not from laziness, but pure biological necessity. Rain? Almost non-existent. Northern Egypt, Nile Delta, might see few winter storms, but in Upper Egypt, south, years can pass without single drop. This absence of rain is precisely why Nile is so crucial. It brings water from distant Ethiopian mountains and African Great Lakes, where rains are abundant. Wind is another character in Egyptian climatic drama. Kamsin, hot, dry desert wind, can blow for days, bringing sand that infiltrates every crack, every container, every fold of clothing. Imagine giant hairdryer blowing sand in your face for 50 days. That's roughly how it feels. During these sandstorms, visibility drops dramatically, and you stay indoors as much as possible. Your house is designed specifically for this extreme climate. Thick mud brick walls function as natural thermal insulation, keeping interior cool during day and preserving warmth at night. Yes, desert nights can be surprisingly cold. Flat roof serves as additional space for sleeping on hottest nights, when interior becomes unbearably stuffy. Small windows limit sun and sand entry, while allowing some ventilation. More sophisticated homes even have wind catchers, roof structures designed to direct any breeze into house. Its original passive air conditioning, invented millennia before electricity. Water is managed with almost religious respect. Every drop is precious. Ingenious irrigation systems, canals, dikes, and basins distribute Nile water to fields. Shaduf technology, counterweight with bucket to lift water, allows you to move water to higher ground. It's sophisticated, hydraulic engineering and error without calculators or computer simulations. Your calendar is so tied to climate that Egyptians were first to develop precise 365-day solar year. By observing annual appearance of star Sirius, which coincides with flood beginning, astronomer priests created system that allowed predicting and preparing for Nile cycles. It's meteorology and astronomy combined in vital practical science. Lying in your bed, you can feel night temperature dropping rapidly, another aspect of desert climate. Without humidity to retain heat, as soon as sun sets, world cools dramatically. You pull linen blanket over your body, while nature's rhythm lulls you to sleep. Tomorrow, sun will rise mercilessly again, and eternal cycle of Egyptian climate will continue, as it has for thousands of years. Finally, it's time to sleep. In ancient Egypt, sleep isn't just biological necessity. It's spiritual state when your soul can travel, encounter gods or dead, and receive divine messages. Sleeping is part religion, part supernatural adventure. Your bed isn't orthopedic, mattress with memory foam and 700 pocket springs you see in modern ads. It's simple wooden frame with interwoven ropes forming semi-elastic surface, covered with linen mattress stuffed with straw, wool, or for richer ones, soft papyrus. It's more comfortable than floor, but not much more. No soft feather pillows. You rest head on wooden, stone, or ceramic support with semicircular shape. Seems uncomfortable, and is, but has practical purposes. Keeps head elevated and cool, protects hairstyle or wig, and most importantly, prevents insects from entering ears or nostrils during night. In Egypt, functionality always trumps comfort. Your sleep preparation is simple, but imbued with spiritual meaning. You remove coal eye makeup using oil and water. Murmur protective prayers to Bes, God protector of sleep, and maybe place specific amulets near bed to ward off nightmares and scorpions, both equally feared. Sleeping naked is common due to heat, except in cooler months when light linen tunic serves as pajamas. No specific sleepwear. Another product department stores will have to wait millennia to sell. Dreams are taken extremely seriously. They're not considered random neural processing or subconscious manifestations. They're direct messages from gods or visits to spiritual world. Particularly vivid or strange dreams might lead you to consult professional interpreter, usually priest specialized in oniromancy, dream divination. Dream books exist, papyri, with lists of dream symbols and their meanings. Dreaming of crocodile might mean encountering enemy soon. Seeing cow in dreams suggests prosperity. Losing tooth indicates imminent death of family member. It's ancient equivalent of modern dream interpretation apps, just taken much more seriously. Some temples offer dream incubation. You sleep in sacred space after purification rituals, hoping to receive healing or prophetic dreams. It's like therapy session, medical consultation, and spiritual retreat combined in one night's sleep in carefully prepared environment. Sleep isn't necessarily safe. Besides supernatural risks of evil spirits and nightmares sent by enemies through magic, there are very real dangers. Scorpions, snakes, and other unwanted visitors. Your elevated bed offers some protection, as do amulets and spells murmured before sleep. Some Egyptians keep cats not only for Bastet veneration, but as efficient hunters of unwanted nocturnal creatures. Mosquitoes are another nighttime scourge, especially during and after Nile flood. Mosquito nets don't exist, so you use plant-based repellent oils as primitive alternative to insect spray. Some surprisingly effective. Richer people might have servants fanning them during sleep, human version of fan to ward off insects. Night hours are divided and monitored by priests in temples, who observe stars to mark time passage. In some cities, night announcers walk through streets, marking night watches with calls or instruments. It's ancestor of time clock, ensuring guards and other night workers stay awake. Insomnia is treated with various remedies, poppy infusions, carefully controlled doses of mandrake or wine, mixed with sedative herbs. There are also specific spells to combat insomnia, recited while applying oils to temples. Medicine and magic are inseparable. It's Egyptian version of taking melatonin while using relaxing sounds app. As you fall asleep, you enter liminal state where you believe your be, part of soul, can leave your body and travel freely before returning at dawn. This belief explains why Egyptians are so meticulous about having preserved body after death. Without safe physical harbor, BA would be eternally lost. Sleep is daily rehearsal for death, practice for great journey everyone will eventually make. And so, navigating between spiritual beliefs, physical discomfort, and genuine exhaustion after long day of work under scorching sun, you finally succumb to sleep. Your last thoughts before falling asleep are perhaps surprisingly similar to modern persons. Hopes for tomorrow, worries about harvest, or in modern case, that work presentation, and quiet comfort of being home, protected for one more night. Sun breaks on horizon again, completing eternal cycle that has guided life in Egypt for millennia. As you awaken to another day under Ra's merciless tutelage, it's worth reflecting on what we can really learn from this civilization that transformed seemingly impossible challenges into monuments that defy time. At first glance, life in ancient Egypt seems absurdly difficult by our modern standards. No air conditioning in 40 degrees C heat, no painkillers for persistent aches, No antibiotics for infections, no Netflix for boredom. Just hard work, sandy bread, and thick beer. How did they not just survive, but prosper enough to create one of history's longest-lasting civilizations? Part of the answer lies in what we've addressed throughout this journey. Egyptians found ingenious ways to get high, to transcend mundane difficulties through experiences that united corporal and spiritual. There was no rigid separation between pleasure and devotion, between party and ritual, between consciousness alteration and divine connection. Blue Lotus in their wine wasn't just hedonistic recreation. It was portal to transcendent experiences. Beer wasn't just alcoholic beverage. It was nutrition, medicine, payment, and religious sacrament in one product. Incenses and smokes weren't just perfumes. They were vehicles for altered states of perception, where divine could be found. This holistic integration between body and spirit offers fascinating counterpoint to our modern compartmentalization of human experience. Today, we medicalize, regulate, and often demonize consciousness-altering substances while simultaneously creating artificial divisions between good drugs, your morning coffee, dinner wine, prescribed medications, and bad drugs, practically everything else. Egyptians remind us these distinctions are culturally constructed, not universal truths. They found ways to incorporate consciousness alterations into a coherent system that simultaneously served social, spiritual, and medical purposes. There wasn't modern angst of, am I addicted to caffeine, or dichotomy between acceptable medications and illicit substances. There were just tools, some for body, others for mind, others for soul, all intertwined. Of course, this doesn't mean we should romanticize their practices or ignore risks. Ancient Egypt had its own problems, including severe inequality, forced labor, and political system that concentrated absolute power in unquestionable divine figures. Substances they used could be dangerous, addictive, or toxic, especially when poorly administered. It wasn't psychedelic paradise free of problems. However, there's something profoundly human in way they sought transcendence, how they transformed drinking into ritual, how they found spiritual meaning in physical ecstasy. In era without smartphones, without streaming, without constant digital stimulation, they created their own portals to extraordinary experiences using what nature offered. Perhaps most surprising legacy of ancient Egypt isn't imposing pyramids or golden tombs, but this integrated philosophy of human experience. In a world that constantly fragments us into consumers, patients, workers, and faithful, each aspect carefully isolated in its own compartment, Egyptians remind us we are complete beings, seeking meaning through experiences that resonate, simultaneously in body, mind, and spirit. Thick beer that built pyramids, blue lotus that colored parties and rituals, special wine that brought mortals closer to gods, all speak of civilization that wasn't afraid to explore altered states as legitimate part of human experience. Not as escape, but as expansion. Not as flight from reality, but as door to deeper aspects of it. As we advance in our era of virtual reality, prescription medications for every emotional discomfort, and endless debates about which substances should be legalized or criminalized, maybe we can look back to those ancient Egyptians with their lotus petals and ritual beer and ask, did they understand something fundamental about human condition that we forgot in our quest for control, categorization, and clinical certainty? When you face that thick morning beer porridge, okay, your strong coffee, or seek relief in painkiller after difficult day, you are, in your way, continuing ancient tradition of altering consciousness to face reality. Difference is, you probably don't see it as spiritual act or connection with divine, just practical necessity dissociated from any deeper meaning. Perhaps ancient Egypt's true gift is this reminder that our searches for relief, pleasure, transcendence, and meaning don't need to be fragmented into separate categories of experience. That line between medicine and spirituality, between celebration and sacrament, between bodily pleasure and soul elevation, is much thinner than our modern compartmentalized world makes us believe. And so, as you return to your modern life, with your socially acceptable drugs, coffee, alcohol, sugar, prescribed medications, and your carefully categorized experiences, work versus leisure, medicine versus recreation, sacred versus profane, maybe carry with you a bit of that ancient wisdom, that we are whole beings seeking whole experiences, and human, Journey has always included search for states of consciousness that allow us, even briefly, to touch something beyond every day. Egyptians didn't have smartphones, but they had Blue Lotus. They didn't have Netflix, but they had Hathor festivals. They didn't have antidepressants, but they had Kefi burning in sacred temples. And they built civilization that lasted millennia, much longer than any digital empire will probably last. Maybe. In the end, they're the ones who should be studying us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like.